Hello, this is Michael Swain of 4SA, and we are speaking today on the very important topic of the rights of parents, specifically the rights of parents to raise and pass on their beliefs and values to their own children, which is, of course, a key element of the right to religious freedom. And very happy to have with me today Mrs. Liesl Pretorius. She is an attorney, and she does a lot of the research and gets really into the nitty-gritty of these very key topics surrounding religious freedom on behalf of 4SA. So, Liesl, great to have you with us, and thanks so much for being part of this morning.
Great to be here, Michael.
So we're going to be talking about really the essentials that people need to know and understand about parental rights, and specifically that the South African government may not override the right and responsibility of parents to bring up their children in conformity to their own religious, moral, or philosophical convictions, beliefs, and values. And we believe that this is something which is often overlooked. We believe that sometimes parents don't understand exactly what their rights are in this very critical area. So we're going to be unpacking this a little bit today. And Liesl, I think one of the things that we should probably start off by looking at is the more sort of global picture. Let's sort of pull back the lens and look at some of the international obligations, because obviously parental rights, it's a universal thing. It doesn't just apply to South Africa. And we, South Africa, obviously have been party to many of these international treaties and other protocols that we are actually obliged to follow. So maybe you could just give us a little bit of an understanding of the international picture of parental rights.
Certainly, Michael, and you're exactly right. Parental rights are not only protected in South African law, but also in various international legal instruments and treaties that are legally binding upon the Republic of South Africa. So our government has to honor these treaties in our law. And just to name a few, there are many more, but let's just look at a few highlights. For example, we have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, also known as the Banjul Charter. And this charter states that the family shall be the natural unit and basis of society. Then there's the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, which states that parents shall have the primary responsibility for the upbringing and development of the child. The Universal Declaration on Human Rights states that parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children. And then there's the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which requires that states undertake to respect parents' freedom to ensure the religious and moral education of their children in conformity with parents' own convictions.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I think one of the things that we're seeing is a trend whereby, and particularly internationally, and even I think filtering into this country, where somehow the state starts to believe that it has the primary responsibility to raise children according to what maybe they perceive children should be being taught, or what they should be understanding, or even how they should live and what they should even think. And of course, this is a very serious undermining, particularly of religious freedom rights, as we've said, because passing on your values and your faith to your children is one of the critical things that you do as a parent. That's an integral part of how we raise our children. So let's maybe just have a quick look at some of the main battlegrounds, because obviously parental rights has already come to the fore in the area of education. I know that you were also part of the 2019 situation whereby very liberal content on comprehensive sexuality education was attempting to be introduced as the content to be taught in public schools. And maybe just give us a refresher. What are the laws or regulations that we have in South Africa that govern this area?
Yes, certainly, Michael. It is a worrying trend, and especially in the education sector, it is completely at odds with international law and South African education policy. For example, the Department of Basic Education's White Paper 1 spells out the objectives of the education system in the new democratic South Africa, which makes a clean break from the apartheid regime's system of state-controlled education. For example, this white paper, which guides South African education legislation, states that parents have an inalienable right to choose the form of education which is best for their children, particularly in the early years of schooling, and to choose, amongst other things, the religious basis of that child's education. That's putting it so strongly. And in a nutshell, the South African state basically is legally bound to recognize and protect parental rights. And parents enjoy these inalienable rights by the simple virtue of being parents. It is significant that the word inalienable is used, because this is not a right granted by the government. It is recognized as a pre-existing right based on the natural order of the parent-child relationship. And the government is not allowed to interfere in that relationship. In the South African school system, for example, parental rights are protected through school governing bodies, which represent the institutional authority of parents in the school system. And the Department of Basic Education's White Paper 2 recognizes parents' decision-making powers in relation to their children's education and their participation in the governance of their school that their children attend, and their right to be consulted in issues concerning their child. So, Michael, we've been doing some research on international trends impacting parental rights, particularly parents' right to raise and educate their child according to their own religious beliefs and moral values. Are there some international trends that we have observed where parental rights are being negatively affected?
Yes, and it's interesting. You know, I've said before that I believe in a very real sense that we're in a battle for the minds and maybe the hearts even of the next generation. And it is very often, unfortunately, in the context of children where these battle lines are drawn, and where maybe the fight is perhaps the most severe and the most concerning. You know, we've seen internationally where governments are using their power to back even ideologies that are completely opposite to those held by parents. There's a recent case in Canada of a father who has been jailed because he spoke out against his biological daughter's gender transition, and because he refused to refer to her using masculine pronouns. In other words, he just would not accede to the ideology, least of all where it was, in his view, highly detrimental to the well-being of his own child. And yet there he is now serving a jail sentence. In Norway, and in fact in other Scandinavian countries too, government is literally taking away children from their parents. I read an article the other day where they estimate that this is between 4 and 5 children each day are being removed from parents. And often, as we know from a previous case in Norway, because the state did not agree with what the parents were teaching their children when we're talking about very much a Christian worldview. They literally removed an entire family, including a little baby, from a family in Norway. And there are, interestingly, and I think concerningly, 30 cases currently before the European Court of Human Rights, where states have literally kidnapped children because they simply don't respect the rights of parents to raise their own children according to their own values and beliefs. You know, and I think finally, you know, we're also seeing internationally in the UK and the USA, really parents are becoming increasingly aware of the fact that their rights are being overridden. And I think it's important to say that when you send your child to school, you don't abdicate your primary responsibility as a parent to be the educator of your child. You are certainly, yes, recognizing that you as a parent can't actually give them all the education that they need, but you still remain the primary educator of your child. And when they start to push values, and again, we saw it in 2019 in South Africa, where this very liberal comprehensive sexuality CSE content was being pushed in, and even other ideologies are being pushed upon children through particularly the public school system. And so, yes, this is a very concerning trend. We're seeing it internationally. We've already started to see it in some measure in South Africa, and we need to be very much on our guard to ensure that this trend does not take hold in the South African context.
Absolutely. It is unacceptable.
So Liesl, tell us quickly, where can people go if they want more information on this and other topics where religious freedom rights are being infringed?
Well, for more information on this important and other topics affecting religious freedom, viewers are welcome to visit 4SA's website. Our address is 4sa.org.za. or they can go to our Facebook page, Freedom of Religion SA, and we also have a YouTube channel with many interesting videos on important topics like these.
Wonderful. And so do go to our website, particularly sign up for our newsletter. You can also write to us and ask to be included on our WhatsApp group. We've got a WhatsApp group now where we put out videos like this on an almost weekly basis. So if you want to stay updated, please do that. Also, please click that important donate button, because we are completely dependent upon voluntary contributions to do, we believe, the very vital work that we do in the fight for faith and freedom. So thank you for watching this, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you, Liesl.
Thank you, Michael.
Good day. This is Daniela Ellerbeck, the Legal Advisor to Freedom of Religion South Africa. Remember to like and share this video, and then click on the subscribe button to make sure you never miss our video updates on vital religious freedom issues.